Anchoring. So what is anchoring? Anchoring is based on work by a man called Ivan Pavlov. And his work was to do a conditioned response. When he was working with some dogs as an experiment, he decided to ring a bell and feed the dogs. And he continued this on for a while, ringing the bell, feed the dog, ringing the bell, feed the dog. And then eventually what he decided to do was just ring the bell. And when he rang the bell, what happened was that the dogs would begin to salivate because they expected food. Now we all experience anchoring or conditioned responses in some way in our everyday life, just from our experiences in some way. Just for example, doorbell rings means someone's at the door. You may want to answer it, you may not want to answer it, but that's a conditioned response. Or perhaps if you're out driving in the car and next you hear the police siren behind you and you go, what did I do? Get nervous, and the police car just sails on by. They're not interested in you in any way whatsoever. Or perhaps another driving one would be red light, green light, which is an anchor, conditioned response. You come along to a red light, you must stop, or you're expected to stop, and green light, go. So these are other conditioned responses in some way. And I would like to think of other conditioned responses are anchors, is that when someone you care about perhaps gives you a hug, in some ways your response to that is that it makes you feel good. Or perhaps when you were younger or you did something well, someone patted you on the back. That was kind of a conditioned response in some way that made you feel that you'd done something well. And so they'd be, I would think, kinesthetic responses, the hug and the pat on the back. And then you have the other one where you see the traffic light, a visual one, or the ring at the door, and then you would have the police car behind you, the same, that they're auditory. So you have auditory, which are the ring at the door, and the police car. These are anchors, auditory anchors. And then we have the visual ones, the visual one being the traffic lights. These are visual anchors. And then the kinesthetic, touch in some way, kinesthetic anchors. So for our purposes here, we're going to work with a kinesthetic type anchor. And so to give you some sort of experience of how a kinesthetic anchor would work in some way, what we're going to do is we're going to use a technique called collapsing anchors. So we're going to get you to think about a negative experience and a positive experience. And we're going to create one anchor and then another anchor. And then we're going to fire one anchor, fire the next anchor. And the positive experience is going to be our resource anchor. And this, we will hope, will begin to allow that negative anchor to fade or change in some way. So what I'd like you to do is think of some recent experience where someone might have annoyed you. Now, just something simple, where someone just annoyed you slightly. We're not looking for any therapy session here. This is on camera here, so we're just looking for an experience of when someone annoyed you slightly in some way. Just think about that time when someone annoyed you recently in some way. And perhaps as you think about it, you may notice an image come to mind. Is it a still image or a moving image? Is it black and white or is it color? Are you looking out of your own eyes, associated, or are you looking on at yourself in that situation, disassociated? What can you hear? Is there more information in that experience that is auditory, sounds around you, what's being said? Just notice what comes to mind, and notice also some feelings that may come up around that experience. Okay. Now, as you think of that experience, and the more you think about it, perhaps you begin to feel a little bit annoyed about it again. And as that begins to rise in some way, as it reaches its peak for this moment, I would like you to make a fist with your left hand. Just make a fist with your left hand and squeeze it gently. Just hold on to that peak of that annoyance of experience for a moment. Okay, now release your left hand. Okay, now I want you to Squeeze your left hand together again. And just notice how that experience pops to mind again. And release your left hand. Now what I'd like you to do is, I'd like you to spell your surname backwards, out loud. Now I'm not there, so I have to trust that you're doing this, so you can get the full benefits of this experience. So just spell your surname out loud. Backwards. Excellent. Assuming you have done that, now, what I want you to do is I'm going to ask you to think about positive experience. In a moment, positive experience, but not yet. The reason why I got you to recite your name out loud backwards is called a break state, because that information is still going around in your mind and it's just to distract you from that experience in some way. A bit like what hypnotists use as a pattern disrupt in some way. We're disrupting that state in some way. So that's why I got you to do that, for that. So what I want you to do now is I want you to think of a time you felt that you could just about do anything. And we've all had those times. There may not have been many times like that. Those times you just felt you could do anything. No one would bother you in any way at all. Just think of a time you could do just about anything. And as you think about that time, notice what comes to mind. Notice, are you looking out of your own eyes? Associate it. Is there colour in that? Is it black and white? Is it a moving image or a still image? What sounds are going on in that experience? Is it people talking? Is it just noises in the background? What is it? Just notice what it is for yourself. And if there's an image there, make it as big and bright as you can. Actually magnify it in some way, just as though you put a huge big magnifying glass in front of it to make it really big, so you can feel all those good feelings again, feeling like you can really do it again. Feeling all those good feelings that you can just about do anything. Nobody could bother you in any way. You could just do anything anyone could ask you at that time. And as that experience becomes to grow and get more and more up to its peak, I would like you to squeeze your right hand and fist gently, holding on to that experience only as it reaches its peak. Feeling all those good feelings. And release that now. Now squeeze your right fist together again. And notice all those good feelings begin to rush back in some way. And as a part of your mind knows how to multiply, I'd like that part of your mind to multiply those feelings, double them up in some way. So you can have double those good feelings. And as you feel those feelings double, just squeeze your fist gently as you feel them peak. You may feel it rush through your body in some way. Excellent, and release that now. Now what I'd like you to do now is squeeze your left fist and bring that annoying memory back to mind. And now squeeze your right fist and bring all those good feelings in. And just notice as you may feel like there's some sort of little battle go on inside you. And just feel those like an energy moving in some way. And as it begins to soften, release your left fist, holding on to all those good feelings. And now, release your right. Now what I'd like you to do is just think about that time that you felt annoyed, and notice what has changed. And if you have not followed all my instructions, you can always go back and look at this portion of the video and go through the whole experience again. Now what you had was, in your left hand you had a negative anchor, and in your right hand you had a resource anchor. And the good thing is now, if you just squeeze that fist gently now, you'll notice that resource anchor still there in some way. So just release that now. And perhaps you may find some experience in the future, something coming up, and you may feel a little bit, maybe I can't do that. And you can just gently squeeze your fist and notice those good feelings coming back again, so that it can help alleviate any of the negative thoughts or feelings you have in some way about that upcoming experience. So the next demonstration I'm going to give to you is what's called nested loops. So wait for that. I'll be right back in a few moments.